Hi, everybody. Bobby Ogilvy, project manager and professional coach. So today's question, how should I approach leading my team? So this is very broad. So I'll try to rein this in a little bit. There is a recent theory I saw in terms of an approach that Deloitte has come up with that it calls business chemistry, and apparently it's based off brain chemistry. And what I like about this particular one is it assumes that you are in this, I'll call it team leadership role, and this is about you getting the most out of your team. So it's how the individual works with that team. So if you've heard me talk in the other videos, this would probably include both the one-to-one relationship between managers and their team members, as well as also the many-to-one relationship between leaders and their many teams, their many connections and people they need to deal with. So I'll give you a snapshot of what this business chemistry thing is. They say there are 4 types, and I'm always a little weary when I hear about 4 types because a lot of times this is like the lazy business way of doing science. It's like, well, there's a trend in this direction, there's a trend in this direction. We don't care about dimensionally, blah, blah, blah. Just put it in a bucket, put it in a category, and bam. So like your red flag should be up when that's happening. On the other hand, things it's saying seem to make a lot of sense. And the piece about brain chemistry, what I really liked is that it's, I'll get more to the roots of where this came out of, but if you think of like neurochemically and motivationally, we know there are different personalities and they have different motivational systems. And then it would make sense you need to lead them differently. But in that way, it's kind of like you could frame it as assessing someone's behavioral traits, but really if there are neurochemical roots, in some sense, it's like a neurological, neurochemical assessment, if you will, or an inference to that, right? Some distal way of measuring that. And actually, if you go on, there was an HBR article posted at the start of March 2017 that not only mentions a bunch about this, but some other supporting articles. So then if you look at Helen Fisher's work, she's really looking at brain chemistry and relationships. In this context, she's talking about personality tests, and I think a lot of it's around personal relationships, but it does have to do with fMRI studies and what effects different neurochemicals have in terms of relationships. Or you could think of it as like, to have this or that quality of relationship, what external experience is that look like that I need to have, and what internal neurochemical is that relating to? So if you want to line up with those neurochemicals and have that full body, well-rounded, and think of it as long-term or resilient relationship, what are all the different things you need to do to create that? Which is definitely a great approach. I mean, we all have brains and minds, and in some sense it shows that there is it's almost this would be a realm I would call neuro leadership, right? It's leadership, but it's neurologically, it's psychologically informed of what's going on and how to get the most out of people. Anyway, back to this whole business chemistry thing. So it is framing that there are what it's calling 4 types: pioneers, drivers, guardians, and integrators. I'll use their description here for what they're calling pioneers, but they seem to be more the ideas people. They want to try new things. So what is it framing here? They value possibilities. They spark energy and imagination in their teams. They believe in taking risks, and it's fine to go with your gut, particularly if you already have good working sense or a lot of experience about things. They're very big picture thinkers. They love new creative approaches. Let's contrast that to drivers, because they're probably in some sense the most similar. They want challenge and they want to gain momentum. They like external results and they love winning. They love the thrill of winning. They're also kind of that way the most competitive. They can be a bit binary in their thinking, but they like to be very direct and deal with things head on. They like logic and data, but again, that kind of relates to the black and white thinking, right? It seemed to say that pioneers and drivers were most common for leadership teams. I'll get more into the whole team composition thing in a second. So the other 2 they mentioned here are guardians and integrators. Guardians, they seem to want stability. They want to bring order to things. They're very pragmatic. They really don't want to take risk. They also value facts and data, but they're much more details oriented than, let's say, the pioneers. They really want to learn their lessons from the past. They would probably be the closest to what we might call perfectionists. And then integrators, they want connections and they're trying to drive everyone together. They want to develop and use relationships. They're big on responsibility to the group. They're also probably really the ones who believe things are the most relative. They're one of the less data-driven ones. They're very diplomatic. They want to gain consensus. They want to bring everyone together. Right? And that makes sense. That name integrator makes sense. They're trying to integrate everything together. Cohesion. And remember, there's supposed to be behavioral correlates of this. So if you think of the pioneer is the guy that wants to try new ideas, get things going, and can see the high-level strategy in play. The driver is the person who, once you can set that out to them, it's like, I don't care about the whole thing. Just put me in the right direction. Let's get some wins and let's do this, and I want to win. And just give me the data so I can win. Let's do this. The guardians are probably always going to be the people who want to push back. Let's wait. Let's get a better plan. We need more data. We don't want to repeat this issue. Or they want to analyze how things are going. They want to measure it along the way. They want to create a process for how this is going to roll out, right? And the integrators are trying to basically be nice, make sure everyone gets along, and make sure people are relating well and responsible to the group. They would also be the people who would be most kind of socially offended if someone were to just do their own thing. Okay, so why is this actually related to leadership? Because, we almost talked about 4 personality styles. So how does this come in? What this seems to really be saying is that, for teams to function effectively, they need a good, diverse mix of all 4 of these styles, right? And if you think of each person as being key to a particular style, and again, that's the top-down thing I think is kind of most awkward, but let's say most dominant in a certain style. Part of then the leader's job is to support what's the term they use? The token, the kind of outmatch styles that aren't very present. So let's say you have a lot of pioneers and drivers. The leader almost needs to kind of jockey for the guardians and integrators, because those are the kind of least brought up perspectives and functions. Really, these are all useful functions, right? And it's saying that, well, listen, your job as a leader is to make sure that diversity is in play. So you need to support the ones which are lacking, which are kind of the minority views, if you will. In the sense, when minority views in terms of the styles least represented. And that totally makes sense. I can see from a team operations standpoint why that makes a lot of sense. What I like about this too is it's a systems level, it's a team level way of approaching it, and it's less of, so it's not like a one-to-one LMX leader member exchange, or it's not just a broad leadership style of saying you should always handle things this way, always do this, never do that, or watch out for these issues. It's saying you need all these pieces in play, and depending on the team, you're going to need to focus and bolster up other areas to get it to that kind of optimum diversity point. So then it goes on to basically a bit more to explain all these in depth, and it's basically how these styles think and want to operate, and therefore how you need to motivate them. I think that's some of the more interesting stuff. You guys can go read that yourself. I just want to confirm, people are all familiar with the notion of flow states, right? So if not, you should go review what flow states are. But they're important here because they're part of how someone experiences engagement, right? So that relates to the notion of how you might motivate someone or bring out their skills. Another thing which I thought was interesting here is that beyond saying it said that the pioneering and driver styles were more common for executive teams, but also that the guardian and integrator styles were more prone to at least subjectively report stress. And I'm not sure exactly what that's about. One of my theories would be, okay, there are neurochemical bases for approach and avoidance behaviors, right? You could see how the drivers and pioneers would be more about approach behaviors, and that kind of almost means neurochemically the way they can handle stress, fear, anxiety, any of that is better or more natural to them. You could say that they thrive better in that environment, or you could say they're more resilient to the negative effects of it, they're buffered from the negative effects, whatever. Guardians and integrators would be the opposite, right? And that makes sense because when we typified them, the guardians were the kind of, the data perfectionists, right? Who want a perfect answer and they want to learn everything and they feel they have enough. So getting a guardian to commit to a decision is probably going to be really hard. So integrators, for them, it's a social thing. They want people to get along. They want to be nice. So the notion that people might conflict or disagree is just, it inspires a lot of fear and dread in them, right? And particularly might be hard for them to reconcile that because they want to bring people together, but it's hard for them to know how to bring people together other than just by being nice and diplomatic. So their means of reconciling differences, might be a little hard. Anyway, so it says that they report experiencing stress more. This might also be a good point to bring up this notion of groupthink, right? You're trying to promote. You're trying to avoid groupthink, which is one of the reasons you want this diversity. There's other evidence too that seems to show that the more diverse the views and expertise in your team is, and that way you could think of it as the more cross-functional. In this sense, we're thinking less about expertise and more about the views and styles, the perspectives of your team. The better they function from a risk management perspective, the more that your team, it's simple enough to understand. The more different views you have looking at some data, looking at a product, looking at a solution, the more you're going to catch those errors. That's it. If they're all from the same group thinky way of doing things, or there's lesser views represented, you have less chance of picking up, detecting some issues, some risks, or missing an opportunity, right? That's basically this in a nutshell. This is actually also okay. So maybe we can talk more about each of the styles. Okay, so I'll go over a bit more about what it frames here is they're energized by and they're alienated by. So this is, again, you as the leader and how you want to interact with them. And again, the dichotomy I'm seeing is that pioneers and drivers, and then integrators and guardians, but that's just me. Pioneers, so these are the want to take risks, new ideas, all kinds of awesome stuff. Let's go try things. They want brainstorming, spontaneity, new things, and they want enthusiasm, right? And personally, of all these four, that's probably the one I would most relate to. You can probably get the idea, the sense that I'm an ideas guy, right? I like new stuff. I want people to be enthusiastic and have the spirit to try stuff new. I really value a fighting spirit. They're really alienated by rules and structure. The word no, I don't know about that. Or at least particularly when it's not backed up by something. I want to know why, no. And a focus on process. Okay. They want to try new stuff. They want to break outside the box. So obviously, yeah, if you want to engage a pioneer, easy. Brainstorm new stuff. Like, bam. Let's think of a solution. Ding! They love that. Drivers, energized by solving problems. So it's not, the pioneers want to conceive the solution. The drivers want to actually do it. Once they actually solve that problem, once it's off their plate, yeah. They also want directness, which probably means they're the most aggressive. And winning. Nothing will juice up a driver like winning, which means they're alienated by indecision, inefficiency, and lack of focus. They want a clear problem in front of them. They want to direct on it, and then they want to be able to win. That is it. Let's go to the integrators. They want collaboration. They want to get along with people and work well together. That means they want communication, and they want trust and respect. They're alienated by politics. I think a lot of us can be really turned off by office politics. So I don't think that's specific to them. Conflict and inflexibility. I'm surprised about the inflexibility. Yeah. But definitely it makes sense they would be turned off by conflict, right? These are very socially oriented people. And then guardians, they want organization. They want predictability and consistency. And they're probably the biggest process-oriented people. And they want a detailed plan. These are engineers and your analysts, right? They need that plan. That's the way things go, which means they're really alienated by disorder. They hate time pressure. Oh, yeah, we need to make a decision now. Oh, that would be the worst thing ever for a guardian. But I don't have a perfect decision. Well, that's the way it is. Ambiguity and uncertainty. Yeah, they need clear data. They need to clearly know what's going on. They would hate to jump in and feel like there's a risk of failure. So you need to, these all have gifts. So let's try to typify these. Brainstorming, new ideas and solutions, creating the win, collaboration and communication, organization and planning, right? All of these are needed in any organization, right? So your job as the leader then in this business chemistry way of viewing things is to bolster the areas which are lacking, which means you need to basically analyze your team about which of these four they are, and then how you can best use that. How you can best use that to figure out which areas need supplementing. It also actually makes the note, I should say, is that these are very close to the 4 broad categories in the, some of you may have heard of the DISC assessment, right? And there's some other cool things you can do with it. I think, and it has some cool management and leadership stuff as well, but this relates pretty strongly to that. So again, there's this is about the theme of diversity and how do we get the most out of our teams and people. One of the reasons I like dealing with these topics around team and leadership is that more and more we're seeing, and we've known, broadly speaking, this has a potential in a long time, for a long time, but we're getting better in understanding what makes this the case, is that more and more we're able to approach teams and organizations as that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and we can't just aggregate, we can't just add together individual inputs or people side by side and think that that's the best we can do. We can actually do much better than that. So that's one of the reasons, and actually some of my own research, I'm trying to use more team analytics and organizational level assessments to look at this stuff. So I just love that there's more of these things going on now. And this also is really what I think of as the heart of team management, to know at a single group level what's going on and what you as a team manager need to do. And that means at the leadership level, the multi-team level, right, the one-to-many level, you can do that organizationally, because it's not one team or maybe 2 teams you need to handle. It's a whole bunch of teams. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 teams. That's the real juice, because your organization is really just a team of teams, right? A lot of teams. That's it. This stuff is really important. So then on a macro level, you could say this is about cultural engagement. This is getting the most out of everyone in your organization. Anyway, so if you want, you can go find out more about the DISC assessment, which is just one of many psychometrics. It is a paid one. I will say that is one of the premium paid assessments. This is something actually Talent Edge is able to do if you want help with that. Just to recap the names of the people here. So this was Deloitte that came up with this business chemistry stuff. And the 2 names of the researchers who created this were Suzanne M. Johnson Vickberg and Kim Christopher, I think is how her name is pronounced. And again, they're both from Deloitte. So you can check out them. I'd love your opinion on what you think about this. I thought this was a neat mix-up of a lot of things. Again, I think the kind of 2x2 quadrant way of approaching things can be a little bit too simplified sometimes. So I'd like to get a bit more crunch behind this, the science on this. But I love the notion of trying to optimize teams. Okay, so this is a bit long-winded for a video about how to optimize, how to lead a team, how to get the most out of your team, but hopefully you guys learned something. Thanks for being so patient, and I'll talk to you guys soon.